when things feel like they're getting to be too much. Maybe there's a lot of shit going on in your life and you feel like, wow, I feel like I'm overwhelmed. There's so much shit going on. How do I redirect? How do I focus? Where should I go from here? All right, so let's dive in. Let's talk about that. Let's put it all together. It's your boy, Jason Christo. I got you. If you're new to the channel, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button down below. I do a lot of amazing motivational empowerment type talks, but I also talk a lot about your fitness health as well, especially building muscle, burning fat, and getting healthy on things like plant-based diets. Amazing, powerful stuff. You guys want to join the family? Welcome to the family. Let's just jump right in. I got you. What you're building. Don't focus on what you're losing. A lot of times we get caught in the trap of focusing on what it is that we're losing. We're focusing on a system and we're standing beside a crumbling building trying to figure out what block we have to dodge next. Instead of thinking, okay, now let's take ourselves away from the building that's inevitably going to collapse and let's focus instead on what we're going to build next. Let's put our energy into that. Because if we're constantly putting our energy into ducking and weaving and dodging the bricks that are falling, that doesn't leave us with a lot of energy to build something new. So I think it's important for sometimes us to take our energy apart a little bit or to remove ourselves from situations that are not conducive to our own internal state of health and our mental state of health, our physical state of health, and instead put us in a position that's going to empower the excitement back into our life, empower the joy back into our life. And don't get it twisted. There are some people whose mission it is to be where that building is, to figure out what's going to happen next, to help others do other things when it comes to building. And there's no right or wrong. There's no your position is better than mine. Everybody contributes like quilts on a blanket to the entirety of that blanket. Be selfish with yourself. And if you have people out there that tell you that it's selfish of you to focus in on yourself and focus in on your family, ironically enough, that in itself is selfish of others to not allow you to find yourself, to not allow you to find your path. See, the problem is when you're focused on other people's path and you don't take the time to focus in on your path, that is something that's going to tear you from the inside out also, because you're going to get to a point in your life when you realize, damn, I still don't know who it is that I am after everything that we've been through. The other thing too is when you focus on your path and you find your vision, you find your lane, this is going to open up new opportunities for other people to come in and also kind of look at what you're doing, other like-minded people, to see the actions that you're putting behind following your path and give them almost in a sense validation or permission for them in a way to follow their path as well, right? And when we do that, again, we all come together like quilts on a blanket and everything gets pieced together. But I think it's important for us to take that time as well to be selfish. Be selfish for yourself, be selfish for your own health, be selfish for your family. Because when you do that, you can also help others. When you're not in a position and you don't feel like you're grounded to help yourself, then that's going to put you in a position to be in need of others, to need others. And there's nothing wrong with having a community to help you. But the more you put yourself in a position to help yourself, it opens you up, maybe not in the immediate, but down the road to also help others. So don't make yourself feel like you're selfish for taking time out to help yourself, to help your family, to be in a position where you're taking control and taking charge of your own health, your own learning, and being in positions that bring you joy and bring you excitement. See, when you're in a lifestyle that you're falling more into things of joy, you're falling more into things that excite you, you're falling more into being present in the world. Now, when you fall more into being present rather than what's going to happen next, oh my God, what's happening, what's coming towards me, holy shit, then what happens is you're kind of getting off balance, off center. And no matter what is happening out there, when you fall into your own things that excite you, the things in your life that bring you joy, the things in your life where you feel like you can be of value to others, then what ends up happening from that perspective is you start drawing in, quantum mechanics shows us this, what you put out, you bring back, right? That's the law as well of karma. But what we see is when you push something out there, that also is going to come back. You push out joy and excitement, you're going to get joy and excitement and opportunity back to you. You push out fear, you push out the regurgitation of things like animosity, anger, resentment. Those things are just going to come back to you. Again, everything's a mirror and a reflection. And as hard as it is, and it's not to say that we're all fucking perfect and whatever I'm saying is just something that's going to fucking happen. But what I'm saying at the end of the day is if we can focus more on understanding those fundamental pieces to the world that we're in, then we can take a time when we feel like we're getting caught again in that trap of regurgitating fear or the trap of regurgitating resentment to then go and switch the lane a little bit to remember what makes me excited, what brings me joy, what brings me happiness. And then focus our internal energy and our internal state on projecting that out there and then taking a moment to be in the moment to see that type of joy and excitement come back to us, because then that brings us back to a state of being. It brings us back to being in the moment, and the present moment is all we have. The past, the future, all of that is an illusion to the mind. And especially when it comes to things like time again doesn't exist. What you have is that centerpiece. What you have is the most powerful moment, which is the now moment. But if we're constantly focused on the past, or we're constantly focused on a future that's not there, it's just an idea of a future, a suggestion of a future, which is something that the system does all the time. It gives you a suggestion of a future and allows you to create it based on your own fears, based on your own resentment, based on your own anger. And then you call into reality a reality of anger, of resentment, of fear, of frustration, right? And of course, this is the hardest thing to do. You see, it takes a lot more energy for someone to stay grounded, to stay in peace and stay in a state of love and project that energy out there. And that's a lot harder than it is to act off sheer raw anger, fear, and hatred. Right? Because that's just a primal, ironically reptilian-based part of the brain that you're using to project that back out into the world. Back to the collapsing of the building, we remove ourselves from the collapsing of the building and we put ourselves in a position to build new buildings. Build new buildings of hope, of power, of empowerment, of value. And so sometimes, again, easier said than done. But the important thing is, if we can recognize it, then we can start taking action towards it. We can start putting our thoughts and our emotions towards bringing that out. The last thing I want to say is sometimes when things get kind of crazy, narrow the field. When I say narrow the field, what's happening is there's so much information just being shot at you all the time. Now, if you can pause, you can take a step and you can figure out, okay, do I want to talk about all of these things all at one time? Am I starting to feel overwhelmed? There's nothing wrong with taking a step back from feeling overwhelmed about what things are happening, and instead narrow your field. Because what's going to happen is you got to think that your body and your brain is like a computer. Now, like any computer, you can overwhelm the circuitry. If you overwhelm the circuitry, the system's going to blow at some point. And so what's important is just taking a step back, saying no to certain things, saying, no, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. Where I'm going to focus my energy is this. It's almost like business. If you think about the businesses that have really done amazing things or been extremely successful, typically they start off with one thing. They start off with a niche area, and from that niche area, they build up. Because if you go too wide, you lose it. So if you focus in, you narrow in, you have a strong message to your prospective audience, then that audience is going to see you as being more in a powerful position to bring that product to them, to be a person of value, to help their needs. It's the same thing when it comes to overwhelming your circuitry with too much information. Focus in on what the most important thing is for you, maybe for your family, for the values that you have, and move forward with that. Even if it's for a period of time, then you feel like you want to jump to something else, but don't overwhelm the circuitry. In our world today, there's a lot of things like fear, there's a lot of war, there's a lot of chaos, there's a lot of animosity, there's a lot of crazy shit going on. Right now, you can stay in that trap and keep looking around and keep looking to the next fear, which is just a suggestion, the future, which is just a suggestion for the present moment to allow you to create. That's how powerful you are, because the system needs you to create it. So that's why this suggestion goes inside of you, you internalize it with your emotions and your thoughts, and then you project it out, you create it. That's what they did with things like masks and policies and mandates. All these things are fluff, but they gave you a suggestion of a virus. They gave you a suggestion, the suggestion of a pandemic. They gave you a suggestion of fear, of mandates, of policies, and then people went and internalized it, created it, and then self-controlled each other, self-regulated each other, fought each other based off the initial suggestion by your so-called leaders. So you have to understand that a lot of people are experts when it comes to the manipulation of energy and knowing that you are the most powerful person, but I don't want you to know that. I'm going to make it seem like we're telling you what to do, when in actuality, they're giving you a suggestion. So they can double back on that at any time and say, hey, you guys make your choices of what you think is good for you or your family. So always remember that the power of suggestion can be something else. So instead of something negative, the power of suggestion, of opportunity, of hope, of love, of empowerment, of being a person of value, of being grateful, of being thankful. And then we can take all those things out, and then we can project and we can create that in our world. So then we are conduit because something different from the suggestions that we're taking in and we're putting out. Right? So just something else. And again, remember, do not overwhelm your circuitry. Focus in on something that's important to you and take time out as well. Take time away from certain things if you have to as well.